Hi everyone, welcome once again to my YouTube channel. It's a girl OJB Fashion Style. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with us how I made this beautiful peplum kimono / pinafore top, which you could wear on either side, whether the green side or the kente side. So stick around and let's get started. So we'll be using 1 yard each of both fabric, and if you're on the big side, you'll be needing 2.5 yards. The first thing I'm going to be doing now is to draft our basic bodies on this pattern paper. So the length of the pattern paper is 16 inches, which is from my shoulder to my waistline. Okay, so that's 16 inches. Then I'll be taking my shoulder to shoulder measurement, which is 16 inches divided by 2 to give me 8. I further reduced my shoulder to shoulder measurement by 1 inch. This is optional. If you want your top to be very wide on the shoulder, you could leave it, but I didn't want mine to be very wide. So I'll be cutting out the side of the pattern paper that I would not be needing. And then at the base of my pattern paper, which is the bottom there, I'm going to be going in by 3 inches, and then I'll be connecting that point to the point at the top. This is to create a sort of a V shape, a slant line from the shoulder to the waistline. Then I'll just go ahead and trim that portion out. So for the neck, this pattern paper is going to be used for both the back and the front of our top. So I'm going to be drafting the pattern for the neck, both for the back and for the front. So for the front is 3 inches into 3 inches, while the back is 3 inches into 2 inches. And then I'll just go ahead and draw out both curve for the back and also for the front. So now I would be trimming out the neckline pattern for the back while I leave out that for the front. Just simply take my shoulder slope of 1 inch and then I'll trim that off. So after that, I went ahead to cut out my fabric using this simple pattern that we drafted. So I used this pattern to cut out both fabric for back and then also for the front. So please take note that the fabric for the front is slashed in 2 at the middle, while the fabric for the back was simply in a fold. Having done that, I went ahead to recut the neckline pattern for the front, which is 3 inches into 3 inches. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to also cut the other fabric. Hope you remember that it is a reversible jacket, so it's having fabric on both sides, which we could use on either side. So I went ahead to also cut out for the other fabric, so it is the same cutting. So we now have for the kente and also for the green fabric. Now we're going to be drafting our flay pattern. Okay, so I've cut out my fabric, which is 24 inches on all sides. It is actually a square fabric, and then I went ahead to make a fold. I'm folding it into 4. Okay, so please take note of that. So for the radius of my flay, I took a radius of 1.5 inches. So if you're on the big side, you could make yours 2 inches. So this is a radius of 1.5 inches. And then my flare length is 9 inches. So it's optional. If you want yours to be 7 inches, 8 inches, you could also do that. So I went ahead now to cut out my flare. So I'll be repeating the same thing on the other fabric. Remember, this is a 740 degrees flare, which is double. So I'll be cutting it out also before I go ahead to cut out on my kente fabric. So as you can see, my flare cuttings are ready. So I'm going to be slashing it on one side, and then I'll go over to attach my gum stay on it. So the gum stay was attached only on the kente fabric. For this, you could use ST, but I wanted mine to be firmer, so that's why I attached my gum stay on only the kente fabric. So what I will do now is to join the fabric for the top, placing it
right sides facing each other, and then I'll be stitching the shoulders on the machine. Okay, so I'd already done that. As you can see, it's looking neat. The kente fabric is looking firm. So now I would also be turning the right sides facing each other, and then I'll be sewing on the two sides. Please take note of the areas where I'm indicating with my fingers, and then I'll leave out the bottom so as to be able to turn it to the right sides. So I had already done that, and as you can see, I've ironed it and it's looking very neat.
So next we'll be joining our flares together. Remember, I only attached my gum stay on the kente fabric, and also I'm going to be joining the 360-degree flares together to make what 740 degrees flare. So I'll stitch on that point where I indicated with my fingers, and then also I'll repeat the same process for the other fabric. Having combined both fabric and stitched, here we have our 740 degrees flare. Okay, because gum stay has been attached on the kente fabric, it's not actually dropping, so you can see that our flares are dropping nicely on the other fabric. So what I'm going to be doing now is to place both flares on top of each other, the right sides facing each other. Okay, and then I'll be holding them first of all with my pins. Please ensure you do that, okay, so they will be staying properly before going over to the sewing machine to stitch them together. So I'm going to do this all through the edges of the flare till the very end. So now I'm done pinning my flares together, as you can see. So I'm going to trim off that little piece that is left there. I'm going to be cutting that out, and then I'll go over to the sewing machine to sew around the edges where I pinned. So having done that, I went ahead to draft my curve around where my circle has an opening. Okay, so you could do this with your free hand or use your curve rule, and then after cutting it out, I'll just hold it together with my pin and then go over to the sewing machine to stitch it. So now I'm done stitching my flares together, and as you can see, I am flipping it over to the right side. So after that, we'll simply just go over and iron it out neatly. So you can see that I've ironed it out and it's looking really nice on both sides. So please ensure you iron out your flares properly and make sure that no fabric on either side show on on the wrong side. Okay, so what I did, my flare was a bit wider and I decided to alter my design. So I wanted the green side to be showing on the kente side, so I folded it a little bit. And so next I'm going to be attaching a waistband to my flares. So I'd gone ahead to cut out a waistband of about 2.5 inches wide and then about 2 yards of length. Okay, so what I'm going to do here now, please ensure you watch this closely. I'm going to be attaching both bands separately, on each side of the fabric. Please take note of this. I'm going to be facing the right sides of each band on each side of the right fabric. Okay, so first of all, I actually attached a gum stay on the kente side as I did to every other fabric of the kente. Okay, so you can see me trying to place my band now properly on my flares. Okay, and then I'll just simply hold it with my pins. So please ensure that you get the middle of your flare first, and then make a notch at the middle to be able to, identify it. And then also make a notch at the middle of your band so as to be able to start up your holding together with the pin from the middle. I noticed that at this point my camera was off the recording of the table at the time, so I'm sorry for that. So this actually took a while, but it was worth it. So I'm going to be stitching around where I'd pinned together, and as you can see, after flipping it over to the right side, it's looking neat. So we're going to be repeating this process on the other side of our flares. Okay. So now I'm done stitching my band on my flare, and as you can see, it's looking very beautiful even though it had not been completed. So you can see both sides of the band are positioned properly. So please ensure your band stay properly. Okay. All right, so next I'm going to be attaching the top to my flare. All right, so what I did first was to take the measurement for my band, which is now 2 inches, and then I also took the measurement of the top, and it was 15 inches. So from my shoulder to my waist is 16 inches, so I'm simply going to be removing 1 inch from the top, which is what I'm doing now, before attaching it to the flare. Okay, so first I'm going to be attaching the back side to the flare. So I'm simply trying to get the middle of the top, and this time I'm not going to be making a notch. I'm simply going to be marking the middle with my chalk, and then as you can see, I'm folding in my band a little bit, and then I'm going to be folding it also on the other fabric before pinning to my top. Okay, so this is quite simple, though it took a while to do. So you could try this out even though you're a beginner. I've been able to properly fold in my kente side and now the green side properly. So now I can hold it together with my pin. Another thing you can also do is to iron in, fold in your band first and then iron it, and it will simply be you attaching the top to it. That's the easiest method, but I did this method in case you are out of power supply, so you could do this as well. So I'm done with that of the back. Okay, so I went over to the sewing machine to stitch it. So I'm going to continue folding in my band till I get to a point where it is now okay for me to attach the front of my top. So for the front side, please ensure that you start from the beginning of where the flare started, as you see me indicate with my finger. So you're going to be placing your front side from the beginning of where the flare started. So please take note of that. So I'm simply going to hold that in with my pin, and then I'll continue to fold in the band till I get to the end of it. So we'll also be repeating this process for the other side, and that would be it. for the making of our top, our kimono slash pinafore flare top. Okay, so this actually turned out really nice. So after stitching it, I ironed it out, and as you can see, I rocked it with two different outfits and it came out really beautiful. So see you on the next one. Until then, bye.